welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Amanda and today we are doing a wrap-up. Now I already filmed my owls wrap-up, but I was blurry. All you could hear in the background was my children fighting and my fiance messing around in the kitchen and clinking dishes together. So I decided to refilm it, but I can't do, I could do separate ones, but my May wrap-up is only 3 books long, so I'm just going to combine April and May's. So in April, I read 12 books, which were for the Owls readathon that's hosted by G at Book Roast, and she did an amazing job. There were pamphlets and she even went all out on the wizarding careers, and it was just wonderful. And I will put down below here what each book prompt was for. But yes, I only had to read about 8 or 9 for my personal career, but I had to give in to my inner Hermione and attempt to read all 12, and I did finish all 12, thankfully. Sorry, there's people driving around outside the window. So let's get into this. So the very first book that I read for the Owls was, I read Ash by Malinda Lo. This is a Cinderella retelling. I highly enjoyed this interpretation of Cinderella. It included fairies and there was a female-female romance. It just took the story of Cinderella and put a spin on it, and I just loved it. So I gave that book 4.5 out of 5 stars. If you like retellings or just looking for a book about fairies, I would give that a try. The next book that I read was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children series. In this book, we follow the backstory of the characters Jack and Jill, who went to a land called the Moors. It told the story of them surviving in the Moors, living with danger and death and mad scientists. And there was also a female-female romance in this one. I really enjoyed this book. I think I actually liked this one better than I liked the first one. As for all of the books in the Wayward Children series, I just wish that it had been longer and we got more out of the story, like more details in the story, and got to see a little bit more about things that happened. That's the only downside to it. I did end up giving this one 4.5 out of 5 stars. And the next book I completed for the Owls was Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna McGuire. This is the third book in the Wayward Children series. Gave that 4.5 out of 5 stars too. The next book that I picked up for the Owls was Radiant Darkness by Emily Whitman, and this book is also a retelling of Hades and Persephone, and I really enjoyed this book. I loved the tale and the romance that grows between the two of them and how she finds herself. And so basically, Persephone grows up with her mother in this paradise place, but she grows up feeling pretty isolated and alone until one day she meets Hades and runs away with him, and this follows her tale of how she copes with being in the underworld and the consequences of her running away with Hades. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was very good, and I definitely think that you should pick this up. 10 out of 10 would recommend. The next book that I picked up for the Owls was Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. It's no surprise if you've watched some of my videos that I loved this book. I really enjoy her writing, and she is really down to earth, and she's so funny. Especially if you listen to the audiobook, it feels like she's talking directly to you. This book centers around learning how to not worry about what other people think of you. So my hot mess self needed to read this, and it made me really think about my life and the way that I view myself through others' eyes. So if you're on the struggle bus like me, you should definitely pick this up, and even if you're not, you should try it anyways. And I also gave that 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I picked up for the Owls was The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi, and this is retelling-esque. Think Hades Persephone meets Indian mythology, and this was really good. I was honestly afraid that I wouldn't like it, which is why it took me so long to actually pick this book up. but it was the only book that I had that actually fit the prompt, so I picked it up and I'm so glad that I did. I actually ordered the second book even before I finished this book. I ordered it. I loved the writing style. I thought her writing was beautiful. I highly enjoyed this book. So we follow Princess Maya of the Kingdom of Bharata. I think I'm saying that right. And her kingdom focuses a lot on horoscopes and like astrology, and apparently her horoscope prophesized was very dark, so she was treated kind of like a pariah. Nobody really wanted anything to do with her. Her father set her to be married off to stop the wars that were, or to fake a peace between the kingdoms that they're at war with, and she ends up marrying a mysterious man, and he whisks her away to a mysterious magical land. And while she's there, she learns a lot about herself and her past. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I had a little bit of issue with just wanting more details out of it. I just wanted more. I wanted more out of it. A lot of it leaves you kind of wondering, and I wanted to know. I wanted to be clarified and give details, and I definitely think that you should give this a try and pick it up. It's a beautiful story. The next book that I read was Scythe by Neil Shusterman, and I devoured this book. I was honestly afraid that I wouldn't like it. I have that fear with a lot of books, and this one had been pretty hyped up, and that always makes me more worried that I won't like it, so then I put off reading it. But I picked this one because it had the red cover that fit the prompt. I loved this book. I loved the world building and the political and moral things that it makes your brain think, and like discussions that you kind of like think of in your head about this book. So in this world, it is a futuristic novel that takes place in a time where death has been cured. All of the diseases and madness and misery, hunger, everything's been cured, and the only way to die is to be gleaned by a scythe. And even in a world where death has been cured, there still has to be death to keep population under control. They have scythes who go and keep the population down. And this story, we follow Citra and Rowan, 2 apprentices who are training to become scythes. We follow their story and how they have to learn to end a life so they don't risk losing their own. I highly recommend this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I would have given it 100 if I could. So far, this is one of my favorite books of the year. The next book that I read was The Witch Doesn't Burn in This One by Amanda Lovelace. I did not enjoy this as much as I liked her first book. The first book, which was The Princess Saves Herself in this one, I think. But this one I didn't like as much. It was it's got a lot of triggers in it, and I just didn't enjoy reading it as much as I did the first one. I gave this 3 stars, and I will still read the last one, the one that just came out. She has beautiful writing, and I do recommend the first one, The Princess Saves Herself in this one. I have a hard time recommending this one just because of all the triggers in it. If you don't mind those triggers, you should pick it up, but it has triggers for sexual abuse, physical abuse, and things like that. So the next book that I picked up was The Tea Dragon Society by Katie O'Neill. I really liked this book. It was super cute. I loved the illustrations inside. It was just a fun and cute story. We follow a blacksmith apprentice who finds a lost tea dragon, and when she returns the tea dragon, she meets people who take care of them, and she gets drawn into their society and learning how to take care of tea dragons. I gave this one 4 stars. It was super cute. Yeah, I think you should pick it up because it's adorable. The next book that I picked up was Lumberjanes Volume 1 by Noelle Stevenson, Grace Ellis, and Faith Hicks. This book I only gave 3 out of 5 stars. It was not bad. It just was a little confusing. I like the illustrations inside and how colorful it is, But so we follow this group of girls that are at a girls camp for like hardcore lady type, and they go on this adventure and like weird stuff happens at the camp, and I was mostly confused through the thing, and I don't know if that's like a graphic novel trait where you don't really get explanations, but I'm an explanations type of person. I like details, but this didn't really give me a whole lot. I didn't hate it. I would pick up the second one. The next book that I read was The Handmaid's Tale graphic novel, written by Margaret Atwood and adapted by Renee Nolt. So this was my own fault. I did not like this book, but I didn't particularly care for the actual novel, and this just made it worse to read and more triggering, I guess. And I should have known that that was gonna happen because it's a graphic novel. So that means there's pictures and illustrations of what's happening, and it just made it more horrifying for me. So this was a no. I would not ever read it again. I gave it 1 star. I don't ever give things 1 star. And the last book that I read in April was The City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, and this is the first time of me reading it, I think. I take that back. I have read City of Bones before, but I was like 15, 16. I am now 27, so it's been a while and I don't remember anything else, and I hadn't read any of the other ones, so I decided I was gonna read this one, and this is my favorite edition. It's got like the gold edges. I did not read this copy of it, by the way. The one that I read is up there, but this is the most beautiful copy. But funny story, I got this copy, the 10th anniversary copy, and when they sent it to me, it was upside down and backwards. So this is the beginning of the book, and it's upside down, see? My fiance told me to return it and they'd send me a new one, but I kind of like that it's unique and it's like upside down. And I can like, if I wanted to confuse people, I could like read it like this and they'd be like, what are you doing? Anyways, I loved this book. I loved it so much. It was fun and suspenseful, and we follow Clary Frey, who is a teenager, and she went to a club with her best friend Simon. She sees these 3 unusual teens and she follows them, and then she finds out there's demons and her mother gets kidnapped and she needs their help to find her mother, and this story follows that. And I cannot wait to read the second one. I highly recommend this one. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, and it was wonderful. And if you would like me to document my time of reading the Mortal Instruments books for the first time, let me know down below and I could make that a thing, like a reading diary or something. Let me know what you want me to do. That was the last book that I read in April. Moving on to May. I thought I was gonna have such a great reading month in May. I was wrong. I read 3 books. Anyways, the first week of May, we went to Disney. We had a lot of fun and I enjoyed spending time with the family. We went with my fiance's mom and dad and his sister and our niece and nephew, and then us and our kids. Anyways, let's get into the books that I read this month. The first book I read was a graphic novel, and I have it, but I don't know where I put my copy, so I'm just gonna like insert a thing, and that was Here's Negan by Robert Kirkman, and it's a Walking Dead graphic novel that follows the backstory of Negan and how he became who he was during The Walking Dead, and I really enjoyed it. I would have liked to have had more detail and more of his backstory. I gave that 4 out of 5 stars. It was good. If you like Walking Dead, I think you should read it. The next book that I read in May was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I loved this book. I thought I wasn't really gonna like it, but I loved it. And I can't wait to read the second one, but I want to kind of time it out so that I read it like not too long before the third one comes out in November. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. We follow Jude, who is a human. Her and her twin and her half-sister were taken to the land of fairy and raised by a cruel fairy, and they get tormented a lot because that they're humans and the fae don't like humans. And this follows Jude's story and how she copes with that. If you enjoy stories of fairies, I think you should pick it up. It's really good. Holly Black did an amazing job. And the last book that I read in May was Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. I couldn't wait to pick this up, and I don't know why, but I thought this was like a duology, and I was sorely mistaken. I had my heart ripped out and shoved in a blender. I had all the feels, and I'm not going to tell you why, because that would like spoil you for this book if you haven't read it, and it would spoil you for the first book if you haven't read it. But I enjoyed reading this. The third one doesn't come out until November, so I'm really sad that I didn't wait to read this and read it now, and now I have to wait a long time to find out what happens. So this is the second book in the arc of a scythe, and it was amazing, and it was packed with action and political intrigue, and I loved the political line of this, and some of the stuff that happened just blew my mind, and I was like, what? But it was also very good. So I highly suggest that you pick up Scythe, the first one, if you haven't read it. If you have, you know how good it is, if you liked it, and I think you should read this. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I would have given it 100. It's gonna make my top list this year, I do believe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like down below if you did. If you'd like to see more from us, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to see more content from us. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, guys.
My heart rages around like an ocean in my head, because there are so many things that I let